Well folks, you thought you heard it all about the refreshed Tesla Model Y, didn't you? For example, did you know the new Tesla Model Y has a new glass roof and windshield coating that now reflects 7 times more solar energy? That's going to result in a quieter fan operation, so that's going to mean faster cooling times and improved occupant comfort. And it will gain Tesla's Airwave 2.0 ventilation system, taken from the refreshed Model 3, but for the first and second rows for improved cabin airflow. And I've probably consumed perhaps too much Tesla content from X and YouTube over the past few days. But crucially for you, it's time someone created a up-to-date everything we know about the refreshed Tesla Model Y video. Therefore, in this video, I'm hoping you'll find a bunch of new information on the new Tesla Model Y, and this includes brand new photos and sightings of the real production vehicle, together with a summary on all the details that matter to you. So if this sounds like an interesting insight, please do drop the video a cheeky like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Right, let's get straight into it all. First up, the exterior of the vehicle. Some say the front of the vehicle looks a little bit too familiar. Personally, I've seen comparisons to the Hyundai Kona and to the Xpeng G6, and even the rear is very Porsche Macan-esque, wouldn't you think? So frankly, I see them all. But in reality, it's evident to me that the light bars front and rear are an obvious refresh for Tesla that align well with Tesla's new design direction with the Cybertruck and Cybercab robotaxi, rather than the Model 3 as it traditionally has done with the legacy Model Y. Sorry, it sounds really weird saying it like that. But with the legacy Model 3 and Model Y, they used to share around 2/3 of parts because of the cost savings. However, with this cost saving method in mind, Tesla is now leaning on the same/similar parts with the Cybercab, which should in theory save Tesla more money, considering the volume of the Cybercab when compared to the Tesla Model 3. So Tesla are thinking about the bigger picture here. But here's another point that I haven't seen talked about much. Take a look at the driver and rear passenger side windows. It appears the front passenger also seems tinted this time. Even the window screen seems more tinted than with the legacy Model Y, and this all plays into that reflecting more solar energy than before to reduce fan noise as well as power consumption as mentioned at the start. Also remember how the Model 3 got the blind spot indicator located in the mesh speaker on the inside of the door A-pillar? With the Model Y refresh, this has moved to the door side mirrors themselves, just like you'd find in pretty much any alternative vehicle from legacy automakers. Plus, they've also had a slight change in the design aesthetics to help improve the car's drag position. And talking about drag coefficient, this has actually dropped from 0.23 to 0.22, thus improving the vehicle's range, for which I'll directly discuss the stats at the end of the video should you want to hear about the figures from range to pricing, etc. It's also a Tesla first that the Model Y has the lowest level of brake drag achieved across all Tesla vehicles, and that's going to help unlock more regenerative capabilities and resulting in an estimated 5% range increase with the same battery energy, which is pretty mega on its own. The frunk is now powered for opening and closing, which has been a feature requested by owners for such a long time now. This inclusion perhaps is done with robotaxi in mind for the vehicle. Again, another big feature not widely talked about that will be welcomed by many is the redesigned rear diffuser. And what's so good about that then, Adam? Well, this actually runs all the way into the boot. Therefore, there should be little to no fear of chipping paint on entry. A small but subtle win for those that do haul heavy items such as furniture. No more whipping out a blanket to protect that paint. Wheel-wise, we have 2 new wheel designs with 19-inch cross-flow caps and new 20-inch Helix 2.0 wheels, for which may look familiar to you already. There's also been claims of a front bumper camera, even to the extent there being a self-cleaning function via the use of a dedicated washer jet. And whilst it can be seen on multiple photo shots, those that went through the Model 3 refresh what we call a similar circumstance, where despite it being on the configurator images, it did not actually translate or materialize to the production models. So whilst it has been reported, and I anticipate it still, just a word of caution in case it does not actually get taken up, though it has been recently seen on a production vehicle. Or so they say at least. Okay, another small but notable change before we move into even bigger changes from the interior. We have a new blue colour called Glacier Blue, for which looks, pardon the pun, rather refreshing. And I don't think that's my finest joke. The improved ultra-band connectivity from the Model 3 refresh also hits the Model Y, for which improves the car's key range and provides hands-free boot and trunk entry, and potentially the front too. With the license plates moving to the diffuser and a new indirect rear light bar above, the reverse lights are now found on the diffuser itself. The spoiler section is also a separate body part for which could indicate a dedicated performance spoiler, which will be available at a later date perhaps. Plus, the additional bodywork could also reduce repair costs at a later date that I did see too. Pretty interesting. Final points on the sizing differences is that the car will actually sit 6mm closer to the ground than its predecessor. So interestingly, the car is also an inch longer too, for which every inch must count apparently, but I'm yet to find out the answer why. Swiftly moving on to the interior of the refreshed Tesla Model Y. I think this is the real gravy on top of the chips right here. Whilst it looks like it has just copied over the Tesla Model 3's interior, there is much more to it than you think. For example, the rear seats not only fold down electronically, but also back up via rear buttons in the boot for the very first time. For rear passengers, these seats can also be electronically adjusted via the buttons for additional comfort for the very first time too. The rear seat cushions are now 1.5 centimeters longer, and the headrest itself is also 1.7 centimeters wider. The rear passenger screen also makes it to the Model Y from the Model 3 as initially expected, as well as the center console design and the front ventilated seats. However, a big change not mentioned enough seems to be the difference in some of the materials around the door and the dashboard, which goes above and beyond the Tesla Model 3, such as the metal speaker grills where the door meets the dashboard for a sleek touch. But an even more impressive introduction to me is this double stitch design on the dashboard. So why is that impressive, Adam? Well, that means this isn't a hard plastic anymore, but a much softer material for which could help with noise isolation and rattle prevention. Talking about noise isolation, how does a 22% reduction in road noise, a 20% reduction in impact noise, and a 20% reduction in wind noise sound to you? Does that sound upgraded enough? That to me sounds like a class-leading upgrade. And that's thanks to the improvements around the cockpit, the windows, the seals, and a suspension upgrade, which contributes to the improvements here. And in the previous Model Y, the suspension was probably the Model Y's biggest Achilles heel amongst its critics, so Tesla listened and tuned the suspension for greater comfort. In direct comparison to the 2024 Model Y, the new model's ability to absorb bumps on rough roads has improved by a mega 51%, making every drive a comfortable experience for both driver and passengers. That to me sounds like it's not going to be an Achilles heel for much longer, but ultimately the proof is going to be in the pudding. Talking about Tesla listening directly to customer feedback, remember when we expected Tesla to actually drop the stalks and have the Model 3 steering wheel with the indicators on the stalk? Well, in a shock move to expectations, Tesla has listened to feedback and introduced one stalk again instead of the two, so it's not a full backtracking exercise. This compromise means that the driver gains the indicator stalk again, with the gear shifter stalk still being removed in its entirety, and this will be found on the screen using Tesla's smart technology for auto shift where applicable. And if you own both the upgraded Model 3 and Model Y, do note that there are going to be differences between the steering wheels now, which might become a small challenge to you, for which you may need to overcome should you swap and change between both models daily. Tesla's speaker system also now includes more speakers. The main screen has received a small but subtle increase in size to 15.4 inches from 15 inches. The interior light bar continues to move from the dash into the doors front and rear, however it does stop a little bit shorter along the doors than the refreshed Model 3. The car's camera and FSD computer is expected to remain as hardware for now, as I previously had detailed on multiple occasions would be the case. Okay, swiftly moving on to the stats driven part of the video before my personal thoughts on the refresh. Did we see an increase in range for the upgraded Tesla Model Y? In WLTP terms, yes, the new rear-wheel drive Tesla Model Y went up from 283 miles to 290 miles, representing a 2.4% increase, and the long-range all-wheel drive saw a bump from 331 miles to 342 miles, representing a 3.4% increase. Again, I somewhat alluded to this in my last video, that they could have the very same battery pack, just as they did before with the upgraded Model 3. Whilst we can't definitively say if this has actually happened here, as Tesla doesn't openly discuss this information, similar to the Model 3, the gains made in range does look like it's come purely from efficiency on this occasion. That said, the new Model 3 does a tremendous job in actually achieving near rated range in real world conditions, for which I would expect this new Model Y to then do the exact same as a result. In terms of charging speeds, officially it's now quicker to charge thanks to efficiency changes, but there is no bump to the max charging speeds. And we know Tesla are introducing a new V4 cabinet to their V4 superchargers, which can increase the site's max speeds to 500 kilowatts, for which are Tesla locking away additional charging speed gains or even improvements to the curve from a future software update? Potentially so, but for now there is just a marginal improvement to report on. In terms of pricing, bear in mind it will differ between market to market, but to manage your expectations, Tesla has actually increased prices in China, but the first models will also be known as the launch series, for which includes extras including a exclusive rear badge, puddle lights and a dedicated door sill, charging console word marking and vegan suede black interior trim, and the all-wheel drive version has acceleration boost as standard on top of the other exclusives. When I looked at the interest rates advertised by Tesla in Australia, these were initially set at 8% APR. Therefore, the 0% APR days looks to have gone as initially anticipated for the new Model Y launch. So to conclude, what do I think about the new Tesla Model Y? Well, in one sentence, I think it matches my expectations. And some of you may recall, I said if this was released in the first half of 2025, it would have hardware 4, and I said that multiple times. It would also be slightly longer than present, and that box seems to have ticked here, though it is only just an inch. The main purpose of the refresh was to premium up like the refresh Model 3 did, which again, it looks to have done, and even more so than the Model 3. I also personally wanted to see improvements to the cabin noise, which I already thought were really good with the 2024 variant, by the way, and more suspension improvements. And this again seems to be addressed thanks to Tesla using their listening ears. And there's also a number of improvements that were not anticipated, such as the indicator stalk making a return, the improved rear diffuser design aiding the hauling experience, the improved comfort to the rear passenger seats, and the electronically operated frunk. The design, I think, is less controversial than some make it out to be, as the in-person shots definitely do it more justice than the renders, and personally the rear light bar doesn't quite hit the spot for me, but again it does look quite good on the Porsche Macan. Therefore the in-person look for this might just well do it more justice. Taking it a step further, what was missing from the refreshed Model Y? I think the only two things missing that we would have likened to have seen more was perhaps new batteries for more range and improved charging speed. Noting the latter could actually come from a software update, for which out of the two, I actually think it would be better received by many and more so than just out and out range. However, Tesla will continue to tweak and make unannounced hardware improvements to the Model Y over the many months of production. And this could well come with revised batteries, range and charging speed at a later date. But overall, what the refresh does incredibly well was simply to premium up and to narrow it down to a single word. It's just refinement, and in every way it seems to have been. So how does the current Model Y stack up against the refreshed Model Y? Well, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll tell you more in just a few days if you want to hear my obscure take on the matter, should we say. So, do you like the upgraded Tesla Model Y? Did you learn something new from the video, and did I miss anything? Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to take a look at the links in the video description for my Tesla referral code and discounts on Tesla accessories by Jawa. You folks have been great, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.